As we mentioned in the intro, everything we do is grounded in science, but we never lose sight of people that are living this experience. And so I get to introduce first a fireside chat that's going to roll right into a panel discussion hosted by our very own Natalie Sutton, who you've met. But who I really want to introduce you to is Darlene Bradley. If you have not heard her speak already, this is going to wow you. I have heard her speak, and she is both courageous and inspirational. So welcome, Natalie and Darlene. Gotcha.
Darlene, I just want to start by thanking you for being here today and for all you've done over the years since you've been impacted by Alzheimer's to share your story and inspire all of us who are working on research and supporting families and advocating for changes in policies. So to start, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here. I'm always very excited to be able to speak to help as many as I can.
Thank you. Well, I want to start by having you take us back to when you were first diagnosed. And what were you noticing about yourself, or was it more things that your family or others around you noticed that caused you to go to the doctor and seek help?
Yes, I had watched my daddy, who had been the strongest man that I'd ever known, and I had watched him dwindle down to a shell of what he had been and die from Alzheimer's. He was much further down the path, if you will, but I had watched that. My mother had been diagnosed, and I had always been a top performer. I retired from Anthem, and I was struggling. I had been demoted, which was so difficult for me, having been a top performer. And then I just struggled so much that thankfully with my husband's support, I retired at 56. And within a couple months, I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I think because I'd watched my dad and my mom, and I was having the trouble at work, I knew, so many of my friends and even a lot of my family kept saying, you just think you have it because your parents had it. But I knew in my heart. And so thankfully, because of the drug study with Biogen, they did the PET scan and the MRI that showed the positive amyloid plaque and tau tangles.
Well, I think it's such an inspiration and such a good example for people to listen to what they're feeling or experiencing and take that extra step of saying it out loud and pursuing action. So let's fast forward to today. How are you feeling today? Is every day a little bit different, or just tell us about your experience now?
Every day is a little bit different, but I feel so blessed that I'm doing so well. I'm still pretty independent. I can still drive. Now, I often say, don't ask me to come to lunch on the west side of town because I'm not familiar with that. I'm going to have to say no. But if it's on the east side of town, I'm very familiar. I've always been an East Sider. I'm good with that. And so in fact, I've had dinner the last couple nights with friends, and I'm able to do that. I know my way very well to my neurologist's office. And so I am very excited for some of the new drugs that are coming out and hope to get into one of those starting in the first of the year.
Well, I know because we've worked together that your family is so very important to you, and I do want to recognize and acknowledge your husband, Mike, who's here with us today. But tell us about those around you who are helping you on this journey.
Yes, that is true. Family is so important to me. My husband and I are blessed with 4 children, all happily married, and we have 12 grandchildren. And so our house is so fun at Christmas. They all live close, so they'll all 12 be there at Christmas. You should see my dining room table. My husband and my sons built the table. It's 16 feet long, and it seats 22 people, which it was built probably 10 years ago, and it was a God thing, in my opinion. I have such a strong faith, and there are now 22 in my family. And so that's wonderful. But my girls came over and helped me. We ordered all of the Christmas presents. And so a lot of them are in boxes on our dining room table. We're so excited. I'm still able to do a lot. I mentioned at lunch, we're so excited. We're leaving a week from tomorrow. My mother passed in April. And so for the first year for Thanksgiving, all of my family, my children and grandchildren, my sisters, my other sister, and my brother. So there's going to be about 42 of us in Destin, Florida for the week of Thanksgiving. Such a blessing.
Well, it's wonderful to see you making new memories while you're on this journey.
Yes.
And earlier today in all of our panels, I know you were here listening and watching. Many of our panelists answered a question, what are they hopeful for? And we're curious, what are your greatest hopes? And, on the flip side of that, what are the things you fear about this disease?
Sure. My greatest hope is that there is a cure soon. I don't know that I'll see that. I used to say that when you're diagnosed at 56 with Alzheimer's, 6 years ago, you feel like it's a death sentence. And I've had some of the scientists at Lilly say, you might want to change that. It might be different now. And so that gives me a tremendous amount of hope. But the reality is still there. I watched my dad pass from it and all the stages that he went through to where he didn't really know us. And my mother didn't get quite as far down that path. She still knew us, but was pretty confused. So I know that's a strong possibility, but I have a strong faith. I'm not afraid to die. I know where I'm going, and I know that my family will be very helpful to me. And so I feel glad that I feel like I will have been instrumental in finding a cure, having been in the drug studies, offering to speak. My husband and I went with the Alzheimer's Association to Washington, D.C. last year. Unfortunately, I fell and I didn't get to stay the whole time because I broke my ankle really bad. But I'm going to go next year, and I will be able to talk to him. I've been to the State House and spoken. I've spoken at rallies whenever they ask me. I'm always happy to do that.
That's all very true. She's devoted a lot of time and energy and effort and of course, most powerfully, her story to this cause. So, Darlene, one of the things that we've really worked on together over the last year, and we've made some great headway, is, a concern that as these treatments we've been talking about today on our two most recent panels, as those become FDA-approved treatments, we need to ensure that people can access those treatments. And we've talked a little bit about that today, but not so much. I know that's something you're really passionate about. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've done to ensure that people have access to those treatments?
Yes, being in the drug study, and I've tried to make sure I have talked with state representatives, help get the bill passed for more funding. And I've met with some of the representatives. I've gone with down to Columbus and met with Mr. Pence's office staff. So I've just tried to do so much because it's so important. And I think, having come out of a pandemic, I think it's going to be in 15, 20 years almost a pandemic of Alzheimer's patients, as so many of us grow older and it becomes so much more prevalent and so much more recognized.
Well, we're so grateful for the way you've been fighting. Last question for you. We have a lot of people in this room who work on advancing science and advancing Alzheimer's treatments. And what thoughts would you like to leave with the people who are working on new Alzheimer's treatments here?
Please don't give up. I'm sure that sometimes there are setbacks, but people like myself are counting on you. This is such an important fight. And, if you haven't had somebody that you've been involved with their story, you're so blessed, because so many have somebody that's a loved one that they've been affected with. And so don't give up. I think it's so important. And I am so blessed and appreciative for all the things that I've been able to continue to do and will be able to continue to do because of the treatment that's becoming available and the drug studies. And it's so important for people to get into drug studies. I had mentioned before to Natalie and to the folks I had lunch with, it's great. I think it was the HEAD program, and that's great. I think it was mentioned 55 as the age. Well, I was diagnosed at 56. So at 55, I would have already had the tau tangles and the amyloid plaque. And so I think we should work at getting the age level down so that people are able to learn about this, those that have the strong risk factors like I do, so that they can get into treatment and hopefully avoid perhaps having the disease.
Well, so much of what you've shared, I think, is consistent with some of the themes we've been talking about today. Can we all just give a round of applause for Darlene?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Darlene, any final words that you want to share?
I appreciate that. And I guess I'm going to throw in, I am so passionate about this. And so I always do a lot of fundraising for the Alzheimer's Association. I have euchre parties at my church several times a year, probably 4 throughout a year. And I did raise over $6,000 for Alzheimer's research. I know others have wonderful ideas that they do, but it is such a worthy cause, and obviously a cause that's near and dear to my heart.
Well, we thank you for all you do to take action, to raise funds, to advocate, and mostly for your courage in sharing your story with all of us. You are an inspiration. So,
thank you.